Good morning, everybody. Okay, I have a special testimony to talk with you about today, okay? And I feel this is the right time to tell you. First, I want you to go to Matthew chapter 18, verses 19 to 20. Again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. I was in college, and one of my uncles was very sick. He had several problems with him, and he was on a machine. My uncle was on life support. He was very sick. Okay? And my grandmother had 10 kids. So I have 7 aunts and 3 uncles. Okay? Whenever I was a baby, I never really got to know my uncle because, as I grew up, he grew up. And by the time I was a teenager, he was all grown up and he moved away, and I didn't get to see him very much. So I didn't really know him, as well as I wanted to know him. And he was the oldest out of all of the kids. So he was on life support, and we all got together to figure out what we should do about this situation, if we should take him off life support that day or wait an extra day. Okay? We could wait an extra day, or we could just, tell them to take him off life support. So we decided to wait an extra day. Okay? So I went back to my dorm. I was living in a dorm at the time, and I was very upset, and I was very distraught and confused. I was worried, I was anxious, I was scared, I was nerve-wracked. Think about it. In your mind, you're thinking, the uncle that I never really got to know, that I never got to see, could die tomorrow, and that you were pretty much waiting for them to just pull the plug on him. Okay, if things didn't get better overnight, he was going to die. Okay, and I was afraid. I was just so upset because my uncle, everything in college, all the people that I lived with, it was all just getting to me. And then this, and then hearing this really disturbed me. It really disturbed my heart. Okay, so I cried. I mean, there was a couple of my friends, they didn't live with me, but they lived down the hall, or, they lived a couple floors down, and they came up to support me. And I just kept saying, no, my uncle cannot die. My uncle will live. I know my uncle will live. He will not die. And they said, Amanda, you have to face the fact that your uncle is going to die tomorrow, and you have to face that fact. And I said, no. It's not going to happen. I laid on my bed for the first time in 2 years. For the first time in 2 years, I just cried out to God. I was so alone inside. I was so alone. I had nobody around me that understood what I was feeling, what I believed. Nobody to help me through this. At that moment, I was alone with God. And I just screamed out to God, and I said, God, please don't let my uncle die. And I cried, I felt brokenhearted, and I just gave him everything I got. I said, please, God, do not let my uncle die. Please. Please. And I cried myself to sleep. Well, the next day, we went to the hospital, and we all came together as a family. All of my family arrived at the hospital. We all got together, stood outside of his hospital room, okay, and we all held hands in prayer. We all held hands in a circle, and we just prayed. We were praying for him. And I remember closing my eyes, and I remember thinking in my mind of him being okay. I kept picturing him being okay. And I kept picturing God answering my prayers. He's going to be okay. He's not going to die. Everything's going to be okay. Telling you, everything is going to be okay. And I was positive, and I believed it, and I had faith in it, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt that it was going to happen. because I could not even fathom or think of my uncle being gone that day. It was easier for me to believe in a miracle and believe in the Lord sending a miracle down, letting my uncle live, than for me to try to let in that my uncle would die. It wasn't inside of me. It didn't come to my mind. Okay? So I have to be honest with everybody. I had no doubt in my mind whatsoever. It was easier for me to believe in a miracle than it was for me to believe he would die. That's a fact. It's true from the bottom of my soul. So, after we all prayed in a group prayer together, and I kept seeing my uncle alive, the nurses ran out, and all of a sudden, he was speaking. He just came alive. And nobody could explain it. They pulled out the breathing tube. They pulled out his breathing tube, and he was alive. And actually, he looked better than he ever did in his life. Praise God for that. Better than ever. He looked great. He was smiling, and he was looking at all of us and wondering why our jaws were just dropped. Well, I knew. I knew why he lived that day. Because the Lord had mercy on my uncle. The Lord had mercy on him, and he lived for an extra 2 years, and he just lived it up. He was full of energy, full of life, full of love, smiling. And I finally got to know him. I went to the hospital that night to go see him, and I wrote him a poem. Okay? I wrote my uncle a poem, and I want to share that with you. A miracle. You are here because of a miracle. God has let me see a miracle. I thought we lost you. You seemed so far away. I prayed to God and pleaded for you to stay. As you lay lifeless on the bed, no movement, no color, no sound, my heart began to break, and the feeling your soul was leaving was more than I could take. I began to think of the times I missed a day or two, to let you know how I love you so, but I figured you just knew. So many things I regret, so many words in the past left unsaid. I pray you felt my pain when I held your hand, crying for you to come back to me again. To have one more moment to look in your eyes and say how I feel with much luck and goodbye. As I heard them pull out that tube, I was watching you pass way too soon. My heart began to race. Then I wanted to turn it all around, give you what you needed to see the smile upon your face. But to my surprise, you opened your eyes and breathed more on your own. A breath of life was still in you. You came to life and looked brand new. You are here with us because of a miracle. The power of faith stands true. I believed in God and I believed in you. You are so strong to fight, to once again give your heart. You are so brave, and I'm thankful I got to say what I needed to say. God gave you the chance to live again, if only for today. I love you. So I was able to give him that poem. I wrote in my dorm the night that he survived. And I raced to the hospital in the middle of the night because I had to give it to him. Of course, he was upset because I was out late. But he understood. I had to give it to him. I felt moved to give this to him. So the power of faith stands true, and God stands true. He lived for 2 more years, and then he died. But I was so thankful that the Lord allowed my uncle to live for 2 more years. And then he died. I was able to speak for my uncle at his funeral. And this is the poem that I read to him, the one that I also wrote to him, that he got to see and that he loved so much.